Hit the air raid siren. It's time for Monday morning follow-up. Of course, when we overreact to the football weekend, a few things to talk about today.
Just a few, maybe two.
Overreact to the football weekend. We're going to start with my three big thoughts. Thought number one, on Black Friday, everything must go. So, I recorded, on Friday night, I recorded an instant reaction that you can find on our YouTube page and spread it around. And I'm always pretty, I always want to make sure that I'm being a bit thoughtful in my reactions to things like that, because I think, especially in sports media, people can be too quick to declare things the biggest or the greatest or the most unbelievable or the most this or the biggest that. But after spending the whole weekend thinking about it, I think I'm ready to declare that Friday was among the wildest days in recent Texas high school football history. What we saw on Friday, and not just Friday night, Friday day, is relatively unprecedented. I have been trying to find a time that we had a situation like this, and I have not been able to find one. Because the bottom line, the headline of Friday is that 6 defending state champions went down.
It was
6.
Wild.
In the course of about 7 hours, it happened. We had 6. Half of the UIL state champions. Think about that. In the span of 7 hours, 6 went down. We'd already lost 1. Balmorhea had lost the week before, so we were going to have a new 1A Division 2 state champion. Then, you have 1A Division 1. Sterling City gets beat by Westbrook. I don't think that's a huge upset. Westbrook had already actually beaten Sterling City.
Right.
And so, it was a tight game, 44-41. Great six-man game. But I don't know if that's necessary. I wouldn't classify that as an upset. I thought that was a coin flip type game.
Right.
Westbrook won the game. Knocked them out. We'll have 2 new six-man state champions. 1A is the only classification that will have 2 new state champions each of the last 3 years. Nobody's gone back-to-back.
Right.
Every other classification, we've had at least one team go back-to-back in the last 3 years. Not happening there. 2A was unscathed. Mart rolled past Wortham. Shiner rolled past Schulenburg.
Yes.
Then there's 3A. In 3A Division 2, Abernathy beats Canadian.
Yep.
Now, we had kind of had a feeling that perhaps Abernathy was going to beat Canadian, or that someone was going to beat Canadian. Canadian was
They
wounded.
had a rough, yeah.
Canadian was really banged up. It's not to make excuses. Abernathy went out there and took the game. But it also felt like they had, at best, a generous reading of the situation at Canadian was that they had fallen back to the pack. Abernathy's certainly good enough to beat them, and they did. And they knocked them out. That's the first time since 2013 they will not be in a state semifinal. 3A Division 1. Brock beats Jim Ned 70-25.
I was going to say, they didn't just beat them. I mean,
they beat the brakes off them.
Unbelievable.
They took them to the woodshed, and they took some aggression out.
I was going to say, I was asking, our photographer, Tommy Hayes, was at the Argyle game that I was at later that night, and I asked him, I was like, was Xavier Wishart hurt? Like, what went right? And he said, they just took it to him. He goes, there was nothing about that other than just taking it to him.
It was a dominant performance. Cutter Wilson had a huge game. Everything was working for Brock. And they get their revenge on Jim Ned, because you remember last year, that was the game that really springboarded Jim Ned, I think, to the state championship.
Absolutely.
And after that, it was a remarkable win for Brock. Not necessarily that they beat him, because I think that it was, I think it was about a coin flippy type game. I think if you want to take Jim Ned, you are certainly within your rights. But
to drop a 70 burger.
But to beat them by 45 and to hang 70 on them is shocking. So we'll have a new 3A Division 1 champion. We'll have a new 3A Division 2 champion. We'll also have a new 4A Division 2 champion. As China Spring beats Carthage 27-17. Now, I want to give myself a little bit of credit.
Yeah.
I've been sitting here for a whole week and telling y'all China Spring's good enough to beat Carthage. Now, I ain't going to pick it.
No.
Because I ain't crazy. You're going to pick a team you don't pick against a streak.
No.
Carthage had won 41 straight games, the longest winning streak in the state. They had won 81 of their last 82 games. And you want me to go out on a limb and say China Springs going to beat Carthage? No, of course not. I was at this game. I got to hang out with our buddy Gavin Moritz. I got to hang out with Coach Grant Freeman, the head coach of Wichita Falls, who was on the call for Texan Life. Did a fantastic job.
Josh was running camera.
Josh was running camera, our intern. There were Schnorbs, Paige Schnorbach, our friend who was there covering the game for Bally. And let me be very frank about this. China Spring was the better team. That's not a matter of them catching a couple breaks. That's not a matter of them kind of out finding a couple ways to kind of squirrel away from them. No. China Spring went out and took it. And China Spring went out and straight up beat Carthage, which that has not happened in a long time. It really hasn't happened in a long time. Yes, they lost that 2018 semifinal to Liberty Hill. I don't know. Like the way that game went, this was the most dominant performance against Carthage that we have seen in at least 5 years.
Yeah.
It was incredible to watch. And so we'll have a new 4A Division II state champion. We'll have a new 4A Division I state champion, the game you were at. Stephenville beats Argyle 21-17. Again, I don't know if I would necessarily the rankings would tell you it's not an upset. This is number 2 Stephenville over number 7 Argyle?
Yeah.
Something like that. They'll tell you it's not an upset. But saying that you are good enough to beat a team, much like the Carthage, much like Carthage and much like the game we'll get to, saying that you're good enough to beat a team and actually doing it
are two totally different things.
Are entirely different.
Especially when, in the rankings this year, obviously Argyle had fallen and to Melissa earlier this year, and so we're thinking, okay, they might be a little bit down. But that is a team that traditionally, it doesn't necessarily matter what happens in the regular season. They are a team that consistently gets hot in the playoffs when they need to. And so it's like for Stephenville to know, and I think that's the other thing too. Stephenville, I think you could talk to Coach earlier the week and he would say, if we're going to do it, this could be the year. Like we know that, but to then keep yourself calm enough when you actually get to the big stage to do it, I think that was the most impressive thing about it.
The defense was excellent.
Yes.
Kept them in the game while the offense figured things out. They get the late touchdown and then a stop on 4th down, they win. And so Argyle's out. We'll have 2 new 4A state champions. And then there was the one that I would say is the big one.
Yes. 110%.
5A Division II, South Oak Cliff 33, Aledo 28. And you're going to hear a lot about the way this game went. You're going to hear a lot about the things that South Oak Cliff did well. Let me be blunt about this. I think Aledo walks off the bus and is already up 14-0 on a lot of teams because of who they are. They're the 10-type state champs. They've got Aledo across their chest. They have made it to the state semifinals every year since 2012. They are a dominant force. And we can talk as much as we want. Oh, I need to learn this South of Cliff quarterback's name because he's excellent.
He was fantastic.
Kevin Henry Jennings. He was excellent. We can talk about the defense, talk about the offensive line, talk about Coach Jason Todd. All the things, the schematics, those things. The number one thing that South Oak Cliff did is that they played unafraid. They played with a chip on their shoulder, and they played like they were going out against anybody, which is not something that a lot of teams do against Aledo.
And it's one thing, especially, they went out there and punched them in the mouth in the first half, and they were up. And then Aledo started doing that thing where you could tell Coach Buck got him in the locker room. They kind of figured their stuff out. And then it looked like at the very end they were going to have the chance to do a 2-minute drill to go down there and win it. And Sock never gave up, and that's what won them the game.
There's with teams like Aledo, with teams like Carthage, with teams like Argyle to a certain extent, with a team like South Lake Carroll, maybe Allen, maybe Katy, Westlake. Even when you're winning, there's always a wave, and it's coming. And how do you sustain that wave?
Yep.
And South Oak Cliff did that. It is a remarkable win for South Oak Cliff. It's a remarkable win for Dallas ISD. It's a remarkable win for inner city football, which has been the punching bag for a lot of these suburban programs for a long time. This is a moment of celebration for them. And South Oak Cliff did it, and it is truly remarkable. And so that was on a Friday full of surprises and a Friday full of absolute gobsmackers.
Mm-hmm.
That was the one that really captured it all.
I need Sock to keep going so you can go watch that offensive line play in person because, oh boy.
That's
They're like, the average weight is like 315 pounds. It is so fun to watch.
big boys. Thought number one. Thought number two, expectation hangover. Let's talk a little bit about college football. Let me ask you a question, Pickle.
Mm-hmm.
Did North Texas have a good season?
No. Well, I mean, they're going bowling.
Let me ask you a question, Pickle. Did Rice have a good season? They win their season finale against Louisiana Tech. They finished 4-8.
Mm-hmm.
Did UTEP have a good season?
Mm-hmm.
Because here's the thing. They went 6-6. 7-5. They went 7-5.
Mm-hmm.
But, they started off 6-1, lost 5 of their last 6. Right? Did A&M have a good season?
No.
They lose to LSU in the season finale. They finish 8-4. Did SMU have a good season? They were ranked at one point. We'll talk about their coaching change coming up in a moment. I don't know. Did Tech? That's what's so funny about this is when you look at these college football programs measured against their expectations, I think there's basically only 3 teams. Boy, well, at 2 teams.
It's so hard to answer.
2 teams that I would say unequivocally had a great season.
UTSA and Houston.
Oh, see, I would go Baylor and Houston.
Yeah.
Now, UTSA, I don't think they're turning their nose up at 11-1 in a conference championship berth. I don't think they're turning their nose up at that. So maybe it's 3, right? But everyone else is in some sort of soft middle.
Yeah.
Right? Now, there are some, I think it's pretty clear, in my opinion, but for example, Texas State, they finished with a win.
Yep.
They beat Arkansas State. They finished 4-8.
Yeah.
But, Texas, I think they're pretty clear. It's we didn't have a great year.
No.
Right?
Texas was bad.
Everyone, TCU, I think, same way. Everyone else is kind of in that squishy middle.
Right.
And it is a strange thing to go back and consider where we thought these programs would be versus where they finished. Even as far as midseason is concerned, I think North Texas is a perfect example.
Yep.
They're 1-6, and we're thinking it's probably better start looking for an apartment.
Yeah, and then they
Seth
win
Luttrell.
their last 5 and beat a ranked opponent at home.
They rattle off their last 5, and they knock off the team that's probably going to win Conference USA.
Yep.
It's a strange season in college football, and we'll have a lot of time to break it down. And thought number 3, second verse, same as the first. We had 18 rematches in the third round of the Texas high school football playoffs. 18 rematches. And of the 18 rematches, a grand total of 3 won their game. 3 reversed their regular season result. And those were Corpus Christi Flower Bluff beat Gregory Portland in an unbelievable game, by the way.
Yeah.
Tyler Chapel Hill beat Kilgore to avenge a regular season loss in another unbelievable game, double overtime. And Happy beat Turkey Valley to avenge a regular season loss. Now that was the one game that was decided. It was super close in the first time they met. Valley won 70-68. Happy won this one 38-36. So you can look at it 2 ways. One, you can say it's hard to beat a good team twice, and that's true. But at the same time, 15 teams did it.
Right.
And why does that matter? Why am I bringing that up? Because this week we've got 15 more rematches in the regional final.
The regional final is when it typically peaks at that.
And so now, what do you do with a game like North Shore and Atascocita?
Yep.
North Shore beat Atascocita the first time, 31-21. Duncanville DeSoto beat them by 21 the first time. Wichita Falls, Ryder, and Cooper are going to play for the 8th time in 4 years. That's a real stat. 8th time in 37 months. 8 times.
That's wild.
What do you do with Colleyville Heritage and Mansfield Summit, which was a 1-point game in Week 8?
Mm-hmm.
What do you do with a game like Brock and Whitesboro? What do you do with a game like Lubbock, Roosevelt, and Abernathy?
Yep.
I think you have to give the edge to the team that won the first meeting, but it's by no means a sure thing. And I think we're much more likely to have more results flipped this time than we did this round than we did last week.
Yeah, I would almost say I always think the opposite way. Just seeing the Munster Winthors thing is perfect of an example. Obviously they're not playing now, but in just years past that, Waco, La Vega, and Argyle, it's like whoever wins one, you ain't winning the second one. That's always how my train of thought process works.
Ryder and Cooper tend to split.
Yep.
Right? So we'll see. It's 3 big thoughts. 3 helmet stickers. A helmet sticker to Lubbock Cooper running back Judge Thomason. First of all, outstanding name.
Fantastic.
Hats off to you. He ran for 206 yards and 3 touchdowns in Lubbock Cooper's victory this past week over Grapevine. How about Houston wide receiver Jake Herslow, a guy we haven't heard a ton about, but he was the leading receiver in their win over East Carolina. I believe he had 5 catches for 113 yards to get the victory. Or not East Carolina. Who they beat this past week? Houston beat. You listen to live coverage. Tulsa. Thank you. No, UConn.
Oh yeah.
That's right. They beat. Yeah, that's why I didn't.
Tulsa
That's
was
why
the
you
week
couldn't
before,
remember.
Yeah.
5 catches, 111 yards, and a touchdown. As they pulled away and never really let UConn sniff competitive. It was a little close, like 21-10 at halftime, but then they pulled away in the third quarter. And a helmet sticker to Crosby quarterback Syrian Miles. 268 yards passing. He had another 15 carries for 122 yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground. Crosby's wild win this past week. Teams to watch. Tomball.
Yeah, we got called out on this one.
So Tomball, you'll remember, finished 4th in their own district. You remember, go back to my Week 11 picks video. I spotlighted the Tomball-Klein game because, guys, this is straight up for a playoff spot. Winners in, losers out. Well, now Tomball's gotten white hot. Cale Kellums has gotten white hot. They take down Rockwall Heath. And now,
in an impressive fashion,
going up against Bridgeland. And I don't know what the status of Connor Wigman is. He went out in that game.
Yeah.
Just saying.
I was going to say, I saw Bridgeland not too long ago. If Wigman is not up to full health, there is plenty of room for Tomball to make some noise.
Incarnate Word wins their first ever playoff game, 35-28 in overtime. They came up clutch in their overtime win. Fantastic matchup there. They are through to take on another Texas opponent in Sam Houston. So they get a shot at the national champs. And Whitesboro. Whitesboro has been playing football since 11? They have been playing football since 1915. And they are through to the 4th round of the playoffs for the first time ever.
How about that?
I remember when Whitesboro had a super long losing streak. They had, it was like they had a huge playoff drought, and now they're in the stinking regional finals.
That's
Congratulations to the Bearcats. 3 to see.
It's the week.
Shiner Furio week, guys. We were talking about this. I think that this is minimum one of the 5 most anticipated games of the year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Minimum. Across state, any level.
I think it's everybody's chance to get their look at small school ball. This is the big school snobs, I feel like, do
Thursday
still
night,
tune in.
It's Thursday night. It'll be on Texan Live. Shiner Furio in Victoria. Baylor and Oklahoma State. Baylor sneaks into the Big 12 championship game because Oklahoma State wins Bedlam for the first time in forever.
In a wild game.
That was a wild game. But Baylor tried to spit the bit against Tech.
They absolutely did.
But they get the win there through to the Big 12 championship game where they'll get a rematch with Oklahoma State. Remember, Oklahoma State handed them their loss earlier this year, so we will find out how all that shakes out. But that game is 11 a.m. on Saturday. And Stephenville, Melissa, it's your Region 2 final in 4A Division 1. Stephenville coming off that big win over Argyle. Can they ride that to a win over the team that also beat Argyle in Melissa, who looked pretty darn good in their win as well? So those are 3 to see. That is a beefy Monday morning fallout.
Thanks so much for watching that video. If you would like more and to be notified when they come out, go ahead and click that subscribe button right down there. You can also watch Texas Football Today every day live at noon on TexasFootball.com, Facebook, Twitch, and right here on YouTube. For more of the best coverage of Texas football in the Lone Star State, go to TexasFootball.com/subscribe.